welcome to the official Lakes International Comic Art Festival podcast. My name's Ian.
And my name's Nikki, bringing you the best in comics and graphic novels and updates from the festival.
Silverbeard here. I'm back again on this scrawny podcast to talk about my comic that's still on Kickstarter. You know, that one, Silverbeard. Well, now you can get free paper toys as well. How good is that? Beer Truck Toys. Check it out, silverbeard.co.uk. Raw.
And we're back. Hello, welcome to the Lakes International Comic Art Festival podcast. Why are you holding your hands up, Nicole?
Oh, there's no reason. None. No reason. It's fine.
My name's Ian.
And I'm Nikki.
There we go.
And we're late.
We're
like a pregnant podcast now.
We didn't need to say we were late, because if people are listening to it not on the release day, then they wouldn't have a clue.
Yeah, but there are people who've been waiting for 3 days.
3 days late.
3 days late. You should be ashamed.
Why me?
It's your fault. You're the person that does all the twiddly knob things.
You mean I'm the one that does all the hard work?
Yes.
And you do nothing?
Yes.
Yeah, I know what that's
I'm
like.
just the glamour.
Well, we've had things sort of getting away, which is work.
We're going on holiday tomorrow.
And stuff like that. And also, Warhammer's got in the way, because I'm just, my mind's at the minute, it's all Warhammer related, because the new Space Marine book's out, and it's really exciting.
Anymore.
Why?
I just think it's funny that your book hasn't turned up before we go on holiday.
It still might turn up.
It's so
Still
not.
might turn up. I still might be able to
We'll
read
see
this.
the bloke halfway down the road as we go.
I've also got an iPad full of comics there to read as well. Full. So we've got no Tom today. Tom couldn't be bothered, the lazy git.
Seriously, Tom's not on here?
No, he couldn't be bothered.
Why couldn't he be bothered?
He said, I'm better than you, and I can't be bothered.
Is that what his actual
That's
words were?
what he actually said.
He actually said that. Did he actually say that, or did he just send you a tweet?
He sent me a WhatsApp message.
A WhatsApp message saying you just can't be asked anymore.
I can't be bothered because I'm better than all of you. That's what he said.
Better than all of us. Oh, we made him what he is.
No, Tom's out. He's run out of time. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it this episode. We do have Mike and Pete as per usual.
See, Pete dragged himself off his deathbed.
He's sick.
He's been
Poor guy.
sick and he's still managed. Hear that, Tom? He's still managed to do it.
So, Pete, as you heard, Silverbeard just talking at the beginning of the show there. Mm-hmm. Pete's Kickstarter is still going. We will push this because why not?
It's Pete and he's lovely, and it's an amazing, amazing comic.
So it has obviously destroyed its goal of £800. It's now, as we record this, 3,600.
Oh,
199 backers. 10 days to go. The second stretch goal was if you hit 3,500, which they have, all physical backers get a beer truck papercraft template to construct their own Silverbeard and Obsidian paper toy figures.
Awesome.
Because unfortunately you missed out, obviously back when this came out, there was toys available from Woolworths.
Yes.
We've dug out an advert.
We did, we found one.
So this was...
done back in the day.
Yeah. I took it off the video advert off YouTube and stuff.
Because you have to really search YouTube to find them though.
You really have to. It's deep down.
Deeply embedded.
If we find the video, when the toys come through, we...
Don't break the spell.
it may suddenly appear.
I'd love to see what they're wearing in the 80s when they did this.
I think they wore jeans and t-shirts.
Did they have beards at the age of 7?
They probably had Godzilla t-shirt maybe, or what other t-shirts do you have? I'm sure I could find a He-Man t-shirt somewhere.
I've got a She-Ra one.
There we go. That'll do. A couple of books to talk about today, and I also want to talk, which we'll talk about first actually. We watched a new Batman movie the other day, which has been out for a couple of years.
Sorry, just dying.
All right.
No, I'm finished now.
And I've forgotten what it's called.
We watched Return of the Cape Crusader.
We did, which I was expecting pure campy joy, and we got just camp everything.
It was amazing. I loved every second of that animation.
So this is the animation they brought out based on the original TV campy TV series with
Adam West.
Adam West, rest in peace.
Yes.
Bert, what's
Ward.
his name? Yep. As Batman and Robin, and one of the Catwomen.
Yes.
I'm not sure which one. I can't remember now. Anyway.
I can see her. She was the one with the good eyebrows.
Yeah. It wasn't...
Wasn't Eartha Kitt?
No, because that's the one that
she was
really
in there, though. No. I want to say Marianne, but I don't think it's Marianne.
And Yeah, let's look at negatives. The animation.
There was no negatives.
The Joker looks like he was on drugs all the way through it. His eyes were just wide apart.
They didn't kind of get the whole Cesar Romero on that one, did they?
No, they missed out on that. But it was as equally campy as anything. In fact, it was more.
It was brilliant.
It was more campy than.
It was. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoyed the whole.
It was all.
Thing.
I am not a fan of.
No, you don't like
TV.
that one.
I never was. Even as a kid, I didn't like it.
I love it.
I mean, it's got its own little world, it's fine, but yeah, no. Because it just wasn't Batman. I was reading the comics when it was sort of on and it just wasn't Batman.
Oh, well, you see, I didn't do that. So I watched those Batman ones when they're obviously repeated on a Saturday or Sunday morning quite early. And I used to watch them on telly then. And I've always loved them, and I have no problem with them at all. They animated them going up a wall like they were doing it with a stiff cloak, and that. It was brilliant.
Well, yeah, just have a look at it, I suppose. I'm not very positive about it.
No, I am really positive about it. If you just sit there with some popcorn and chuckle away.
And it's funny listening to Adam West's voice.
Yes,
he's such an old Batman.
Yes. But it's still, Catwoman's a little bit old as well, bless her. But it's still, I think it works, and it's a genius.
But Robin
animation.
Didn't sound much different.
No, bless him. He must have had
everything.
Very tight shorts, I think, to get those voices.
Talking about old TV series and old characters, the new collection of the Arrowverse TV series is coming up with the Crisis on Infinity Earth, I think it is, or whatever it's called.
Woo.
Right. So the big thing here...
You tell that I'm totally not...
No, you're not at all.
No, I said, what's the point? All these series is a filler anyway. Anyway, carry on.
I'm not bothered about the series. Yeah. So they're given a chance, because they've got the whole multiverse, colliding. So they're bringing in different versions. So you've got Brandon Roth playing Superman.
Oh, he's the one
who had the movie.
Oh, no.
No, he played the film. There's rumours of Smallville coming into it. But the big one for me is Kevin Conroy playing Bruce Wayne, who voices Batman the best.
Yes, yeah.
That's exciting. Actually being able to play that character on screen rather than just
Finally,
voice.
He's sitting there going, yes.
I mean, he can't be Batman, unfortunately. He's just a bit too old. But he is the voice of Batman more than any other, in my opinion, character. Mm-hmm. They just need Luke Hamill now.
He'll do it, wouldn't he?
They don't have a joke or anyone in there, but do they? But I think
they should bring it in.
Is absolutely brilliant.
That's the only good thing from that whole thing.
The collection ones are usually all right. At least you're trying something, And
trying to keep the money in.
Well, it's the last season of Arrow.
Oh, that's probably a good thing.
He goes, well, I assume he's going to die. We'll have to see.
What's that? Foreshadowing. He's going to die.
Or he'll go on an island and live the rest of his life away from everyone else.
Oh, sounds wonderful. Can I go?
But then you got Batwoman starting up, sort of taking...
See, I quite like the look of that one.
We'll see.
Again, you only want to watch it for about a series before it starts getting stale.
Such positivity.
Well, no, because they just make the series of too long.
Oh, I agree.
If they just stopped that, then I'd be more inclined to watch
Like The
them.
Boys, which are enjoying, that's about 8 episodes, isn't it, I think so. That's
right.
Brilliant. 8 to 10 episodes is about all you need.
That's brilliant, because it's got Carl Urban in it.
Oh, stop it with your new
wonderful.
crush.
What?
Never used to be this bad.
Yeah, but then he grew a beard. Wow.
Right, let's talk about some books.
I'm fine.
First one I'm going to talk about, which you've not read.
I never get round. I don't. That's another one of my little bugbears. I like to hold a book. As much as it's very useful to have them on the iPad stuff, I do prefer to physically.
So, I've discussed Black Hammer before, which was a new series which I absolutely adore. I finally got into the third collection as such. So it's The Age of Doom Part 1. Jeff Lemire, amazing writer. Dean Ormiston, Dave Stewart and Todd Klein. Follows the story of these ex-superheroes trapped on this farm. And it completely twists it around.
That's good.
I don't want to do any spoilers, but it's their life on the farm is not what it seems to be, which never was always something odd. Mm-hmm. This little farm, it was almost like they're under a bubble almost, even though that's not the storyline. Mm-hmm. and the story continues on a similar vein, taking the characters into this new scary world. I don't want to say any more. That's all I'm going to leave it as.
Close to spoilers there.
But it just continues it so well. And again, I'm behind. I know this has been out a year or so, and now the current Steve is they're actually fighting the Justice League, which, until I read this one, I couldn't understand how the hell that would be possible. But now I can see.
Ooh.
So I'm going to wait till the collected version that's out.
And then
because I've heard it's really good. Even though it shouldn't be. Sort of merging these worlds is odd, but yeah.
It works though.
It's from what people are saying. It works. So, anyway. Right. On to a big old graphic novel.
Yay! An actual physical book.
Sensible Footwear, A Girl's Guide by by Kate Charlesworth, I should say. I can't even say simple bloody names.
You can't, can you? You're just... Oh, it's catching.
Read the blurb.
All right, then. How did post-war Britain transform itself from a country hostile towards queer lives to the LGBTQ+ universe of today? Kate Charlesworth creates a witty, warm and beautifully drawn record of this fascinating history against a backdrop of personal experience, realising her own sexuality, coming out to her parents, embracing lesbian and gay culture, losing friends to AIDS. Above all, it is a celebration of lesbian lives and of those among them who just happen to like sturdy, practical shoes. Who doesn't like a good shoe?
See, I prefer a trainer.
Okay.
What does that say about me?
Not much.
No. So as this states, it follows Kate's journey, realising she's a lesbian, and it starts off where she really doesn't have any idea. She's sort of confused, conflicted by, well, she's not really a fan of boys. She's not sure she doesn't,
Yeah.
So realisation of that at the time it was set as well. It's completely different worlds. I mean, it's hard now for some kids still. I know it's not.
It's so,
but in comparison,
yeah, because I mean, we were talking about this the other day, weren't we?
Yeah.
How we didn't know of any gay friends at school.
No, I had someone who would say was camp.
Yes, but no one was. Do you know what I mean? You can't say, "Oh, that person was gay," or there was nothing like that.
Also,
so I find that was kind of it's odd because now kids are much more open to their own feelings, and it's everything is quite normal, and that's lovely.
But we grew up in the 90s, our sort of teenage years. But I think by that point we didn't look at or feel that gay was an issue growing up.
No, but I don't think we really saw it either.
No, you probably didn't, but it was at that point we were growing up. It wouldn't be, if you saw two men, it wouldn't be a big thing.
No.
Not compared to when she grew up, literally decades earlier.
Yeah.
But also, just thinking the lesbian side, when I talk about someone being camp and you think of gay, it was always men.
Yeah.
There certainly wasn't in my school a thought of lesbians.
No.
Even though it is more socially acceptable, I should say, because of what involved within it. It's not as frowned upon as two men, I don't feel.
I don't know.
I don't think it ever had. Well, it wasn't even legal, as it says here. It wasn't illegal.
It was illegal till the 1950s.
Not for females.
Oh, really?
No, just males.
Oh,
So,
I didn't even realise
but it
that. I
still
thought it
was-
just
yeah,
encompassed both.
No. But yeah, he didn't. That was never discussed. It was the guys. It was being gay for men, So this follows her story of dealing with the parents, which is always an issue, especially back in the time.
Minefield, yeah. Whereas now, I don't think. I mean, I hope it's changed now.
Not in every.
No, exactly.
We know that.
Yeah.
We can sit here and say blah blah blah, not a problem.
Yeah,
It
doesn't
not
bother me.
in
But
50% of households. I don't think that's the
see,
case.
that's still wrong, isn't it? We
course
think
it
we'd
is.
come so much further.
No, because it's how you brought up, and no matter what you see is going around. I mean, my parents were always a bit funny, but they would never.
You got
have
older parents, though.
But they would. Although I know my mum would have been a bit, oh, you're gay. She'd have got over it very quickly, and there was never any hate
yeah.
growing up. It was just not talked about.
Yeah.
But there is families out there where it's
Yeah.
comments are made, oh, look at them.
Yeah.
And and that doesn't change. You pass it on to your children, there's a good chance, not always, but there's a good chance your children are going to grow up thinking the same sort of thing.
Yeah.
So
but it's good, because this conversation still needs to be happening,
Of
doesn't
course
it?
it
So
does.
that's a good thing for this book.
So the book itself, as well as following her story, also jumps to pages of the history of how the gay came out through famous people.
Yes, yeah.
Through articles, through uprisings,
Yeah.
and so forth. So it's a bit similar to other books that Lemire had done in the way it's laid out, which I like, which is something you're sort of looking at in a sense for your book, isn't it? Of the story, but also the historical facts in the background.
There is so much information in there as well. There is. I mean, it's a brilliant go-to book, I think, for anyone.
And the artwork, again, I like the style changing when you go to the sort of historical, sort of jumps out almost in some cases like a magazine.
Yes, yeah.
And that sort of all pop, that sort of style. So, interesting book. And again, it's a type of thing, again, I wouldn't have thought of reading.
No, but...
without being sent it to have a look at and
but it's another important book. There's so many important books that come out, which I think every teenager, again, it's one that they should have a look at. Just for themselves, really. And
not just teenagers.
Maybe parents.
I was going to say, probably not the
maybe
teenagers.
all houses need to be sent this book.
Probably people specifically of the same age as Kate. The slightly older generation.
Yeah.
Who have got that mindset of meh.
Yes, yeah.
But then again, that you probably can't change the mindset at some points, can you?
But the information is so valuable in there.
It's book like this is why I had an argument with my mum. Well, not an argument, a little chat with my mum yesterday. Because I said, we're going on holiday, yeah. My daughter was saying, I've read 2 books on holiday. And I said, well, I've got loads of comics to read. Mum was like, comics? Superhero stuff.
Oh, why did oh.
So I then rattled off. Well, actually, I've read books about problems with childbirth.
Yeah.
La 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 la. Yeah. She still pulled her face at that, but anyway.
Of course she will, yeah. But it is, isn't it? Still that stigma when you say you've got lots of comics read, or I mean, even if you say graphic novel, people still like.
Well, then they ask what that is.
Yeah.
Well, it's like it's comic. Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like people still they're just not going, oh, it's nice. And you're thinking, no, there's so much more inside these. These are an accessible, all ages way of getting information across and telling a story. I think, and when you read a book, you visualise. This does both. It gives you the little prompts in your mind as well. They're invaluable. And
it takes out, to me, the reason why I prefer them to a book, it takes out all the fluff, especially in factual books.
Yes.
There's a lot of stuff you don't need to know about, and this more or less visualises and focuses on the key elements.
Well, most people, I mean, you are either a visualise person that takes in the pictures and everything to gain your information, or you read. Most people gain information by visualisation. So you look at pictures and you gain the information that way. So comics, combining the both, is an amazing way of getting factual information across to the brain. And also, if you picked up a book and that was, I mean, because it's quite a large book, that one, and it was just words, you'd be like, oh. Yeah, with the odd little picture. Yeah. Whereas it's enticing. It makes you want to read it. It makes you want to learn. And that's the beauty of it. I believe Kate's going to be at the Lakes. Brilliant. This year. She can sign our copy. I want to have a chat with her before or at the time, one or the other, about the book. Yeah, go and check it out. Definitely. You can't miss a cover. No, it's a fantastic rainbow cover. It's a brilliant book. I'm not a fan of them shoes. You don't like those shoes? No. Well, we're not asking you to wear them, No, I was going to say they wouldn't suit me. The socks, however. The socks are cool. See the front cover, you'll see what I mean. So we got Lucy Sullivan on this episode. Yes. It was lovely to chat to Lucy. She is lovely. Again, her book is being released at the Lakes this year. Can't wait to get the copy of that. Yes. To have a good nosy through. But Lucy was lovely. Yeah, she's lovely really, to chat really lovely. Looking forward to meeting her in October. So have a listen to that. Have a listen to Mike. Have a listen to Pete. You won't have a listen to Tom. Not Tom, no. Not him. Oh, too good. He knew this was coming. Tom. He knew this was coming. And we'll see you on the other side. This year, we're partnering with one of our mainstay artists, or 2 artists, from Viz, which some may argue, or at least they would, it's one of the great British institutions. It is this year celebrating its 40th anniversary. So we will be setting a world record. 4 artists, Simon Thorpe and Graham Jury from Viz, and Steve McGarry and Luke McGarry, festival favourites from the USA, will be attempting to draw all 150 Viz characters in 50 minutes. And setting a world record which we think no one else will really want to beat because it doesn't really interest anybody, but it will interest us.
Mike's Mutterings.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Mike's Mutterings. As you know, I like to normally pick a comic or a genre or a general theme and go on a bit of a ramble. It's going to be slightly different this episode, and the reason for this is I've just spent the best part of 2 weeks really ill and stuck on the sofa. I wasn't exactly compos mentis for a lot of this time, but it still left me with oodles of time to binge watch and bulk read. So that's why I'm kind of giving a bit of a random smorgasbord of geek today, I guess. Netflix and Sky box sets have been a godsend in my weakened state. We've ploughed through most of the Netflix Marvel series together, but some titles held no appeal for Alison, so this was the perfect time for me to catch up. First up was Iron Fist, and this was more of a duty and chore, to be honest. My normal time to consume a box set is between 3 and 5 days if I'm enjoying it. I started Iron Fist Season 2 about 4 months ago, having spent half a year reluctantly suffering Season 1. And I only did this really for continuity reasons to enjoy the rest of the series. Last time Pete and myself went on a marathon rant, I think we did both mention the epic fail that was this series. Especially against such brilliant series like Jessica Jones, Daredevil, Punisher, Luke Cage and Defenders. The Iron Fist character just didn't do the source material justice, I guess, and the pacing of the poorly chosen storyline was just all wrong. I will concede Season 2 was an improvement, but boy was it slow and it just failed to capture the comics for me. And remember, I'm a really forgiving guy. I really do try not to be precious about characters, and I enjoy adaptations and reimaginings from other people, but Iron Fist on TV just didn't redeem itself in the end. Luckily, I had Daredevil 3 and Punisher 2 to go. And wow, Daredevil has been a joy from start to end. I know a lot of people didn't like the third season being Fisk as the main protagonist again, but I just thought it was inspired. Fisk genuinely brought a feeling of inevitable doom to the table with his impeccable machinations and underhand strategy. Vincent D'Onofrio brought such gravitas to the role, and I really, really think he brought the fear home. Likewise, The Punisher. I like the solid tie-in to the other series while still keeping that series cape-free. It kept the grit, the violence and the real-world feel that made Series 1 stand out amongst the others. It even managed to centre around a teen in trouble that wasn't annoying and you didn't want to die as humanly possible. That's quite a feat. We're actually working our way through the last of Jessica Jones together right now, and we're enjoying that thoroughly. I really hope that Disney continues with some of these series, but I'm resigned to the fact that contractually they just can't and they need to reboot everything. My main fear being that the subscription fees for the new Disney network, with its Marvel and Star Wars headliners, is just going to be a paywall too far. So, me, the Marvel fan first and DC second fan second, tried the first episode of Titans, quickly followed by the second, and I basically got through the whole series in just under 2 days. I really enjoyed this. I just wasn't sucked in with Arrow or The Flash, although everyone told me how much better they got after the first seasons. And I will go back and I'll retry. I kind of liked Legends of Tomorrow a lot. I stuck with that. But really, Gotham was my go-to DC series. I just loved the clever styling of it from the beginning. But Titans, I was really surprised by. It's definitely more mature. It had the edge of the DC movies. But most of all, it had a solid, coherent storyline. It did do origin stories as well, and it needed to. But even when they did that, it was done cleverly, and it was weaved into the current story timeline really well. So we've got Dick Grayson, pre-Nightwing persona, Coriander, pre-Starfire persona, Rachel Roth, who's becoming Raven, and Gar, who's pre-Beast Boy, I guess. The great actors, good backstory snippets, and a superb supporting cast too. I thought Hawk and Dove were portrayed particularly well, with Hawk's origin story really grim but well told, and it really explained the rage that burns in him. I don't know where they're going to go from here with him, but I'm hoping for a full descent into his monarch persona. But that's just me. And of course, there is the brief introduction to Doom Patrol. I don't think that's a spoiler, as they have their own series now, which I'm really keen to catch. It's a good ensemble, but the series will have a lot of hardcore fan expectation to live up to. Well, that's Titans. Definitely on my recommended list. And thanks, Pete, for telling me to check that out. So, in my further weakened state, I also crawled over to the household's unread comic pile and pulled a few volumes out for perusal. Guiltily, I grabbed Wayward Volume 1, String Theory, which I had actually bought as a gift for Alison. To be fair, I stumbled on this in a Manchester comic shop, and the combination of manga aesthetic, the Tokyo setting, and lots and lots of cats was something I thought we'd both like, but it just had Alison written all over it. So I couldn't just leave it there. So, in my sickened state, I was allowed to read it first. And I just loved it. It was just the chicken soup I needed. It's the story of young Rory Lane, who moves from her father's house in Ireland to her mother, who's living in Tokyo, Japan. She's left to her own pretty much, and she's just left her own devices in this strange new land, and realises that not only is there a magical underworld of creatures, that they're also drawn to her and her as yet undeveloped powers. She also finds similar powered friends, and they encounter goblins, ghouls, kitsune, kappa, demons, and all manner of Japanese beasties of myth and legend. It's from the mind of writer Jim Zub, who I mentioned a lot in my Dungeons & Dragons and comics series, and artist and co-creator Steve Cummings as well. It's a real treasure of a book. It's just beautiful artwork, and the colouring is just sumptuous. You just sink into it. The story moves at a frantic pace. In fact, a little too fast sometimes, I could say, but it's just chock full of unique and interesting characters. Main protagonist Rory is very easy to like and identify with. Nakado is a sort of emotional vampire who absorbs energy and then throws it out in positive or negative ways at people. Ayena is a standout character, though, who channels the spirit energy of cats for her abilities, and she provides the comic relief and just general energy to the proceedings. But an extremely important character, and one that elevates the story far above its station, is the location itself, Tokyo. It's integral to every frame, and it doesn't portray the Western fantasy idea of a cyber neon consumer tech paradise. No, this is the real, meticulously researched, living, breathing Tokyo, and it's far more beautiful and intriguing for being so. It's not just a backdrop or window dressing, it's the heart and soul of the story, seriously. The artwork in general, it's a westernized art version of manga with a superhero style in there as well. Reviews always seem to compare it to Buffy, but personally I think Neil Gaiman's Neverwhere is a far more accurate comparison, if I had to make one. It was a real tonic to read. It was proper escapism, and its cliffhanger ending just ensures you were going to buy the rest of the series. I should say, though, this is not one for young readers. It's rated mature mainly for the language, but more, I suspect, for a brief depiction of self-harm. It's all within context, but I'm always wary of recommending titles that could upset. It's not really something that defines the story in any way, but it is part of it. There is a board game in development, I hear. From what I've looked at, it looks interesting. Or sounds interesting. It's very much prototype stage, and the TV rights have been picked up, but there's still no decision on whether it's going to be anime or live action. I'm really hoping it's going to be live action, because I think it'll suit the Western manga style that it was drawn in a bit more. So, what else did I occupy myself with? Well, I reread my huge hardback omnibus of X-Men Age of Apocalypse. This is the 95-96 epic story arc, and it was spread across almost every X title at the time. It's a colossal read. It just brings everything from that story arc printed as one continual story, and it was a wonderful trip down mutant memory lane. And that kind of caused me to watch 2016's X-Men Apocalypse film. And I sat there just lamenting the number of missed opportunities. I do love the X-Men films, and I work hard to separate the movies from the comics. And the reason I do this is because I don't think you can compare the huge history and complexity of the comics to stylized, cut-down Hollywood one-shots. It's just too difficult to do. They're never going to compare. So I do separate them out, and I still enjoyed the film. X-Men Apocalypse, for me, is worth the rewatch value alone, just for that single montage of Peter Maximoff, who we're not allowed to call Quicksilver for IP reasons, rescue everyone from the exploding X-Mansion. Every time I watch that, I just seem to have an open-mouthed look of awe and wonder on my face. It just makes me so happy, that scene. So, the lesson here is, if you are going to be ill, and you may at least make the most of your recovery time by doing what I did. I eliminated my Marvel Netflix deficit, halved the to-read pile, and I've researched a year's worth of comics to buy. So, till next time.
We are pleased to welcome Lucy Sullivan onto the show. Thank you for coming on, Lucy.
My pleasure.
How are you feeling then now you've finally got to the end of a graphic novel, which we'll talk about very shortly?
Yeah, man. I mean, I have to say, Nikki, I'm aware that you're about to start yours, or have you started it?
Oh, I'm 6 pages in, that's all.
It's a good start. I mean, being at the other end, it's quite knackering, been very intense.
Yeah.
But I've had a really tight deadline, so I think that made it harder. You know, I think if you can do it at your own pace, it's all right. But yeah, no, I'm knackered, and I'm very much looking forward to not doing it for a while. Thank God it's summer.
I think a deadline would be quite good, actually.
It would be good for me because I'm procrastinating so much.
We all do, right? I think that's part of it. But I think it was a very tight one, and it was good to get it done, but I kind of underestimated how much work all the different aspects are, which I'm sure you'll start discovering. But like the lettering, which you've already thought about, how you're going to do.
We'll come to that very shortly.
Yeah. So yeah, knackered so far, but happy. It's finally kind of going to be out there, so it's very exciting.
So let's wind it back in time a little bit.
Sure.
Comics then. When did you first get into comics? Did you read them as a child?
I did, yeah. So I grew up in a pub, and we had lots of live-in bartenders. Mm-hmm. So there were always sort of probably things I shouldn't read around. Lots of, beers. Yeah, I knew a bit too much about that. And then even like my dad used to buy The Sun, and I used to read all the strips in that. I was also obsessed with Garfield, so I appreciate your love, Nikki. It was I think it's an early obsession for most people. So yeah, all things like that. But then started getting into 2000 AD. A friend gave me Tank Girl when I was one of the bartenders when I was about, I think I was about 13, and he said, I've got this comic and it's you. I was a bit of a tearaway. And I had a few earrings. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm much better behaved now. It's okay. I'm in my 40s and we'll calm down. It's fine.
That's when you start getting crazy. That's us.
Is that how
we stay out till like 11:30?
God, I hope not. I'm too tired. I can't do it anymore.
We have to have a nap the next day.
Yeah. 2-day hangover.
2-day? That's nice.
Oh God, really? It gets worse.
Yeah, it gets worse.
Oh Lord. Keep that in mind.
I say we're on the early 40s. I'm feeling old now, you're saying.
Oh, don't.
So when did you start creating comics, or was it more just basic art in before you got into the comics then, or?
Yeah, well, I think I was doing them for myself, but I never really showed them to anyone. Like I would do, like Deadline used to be able to send stuff in, and I would do that, but I never did anything professionally. Mm-hmm. And then it wasn't until I think I did my degree I finished in 2005, and that was illustration and animation. But comics was still very much a dirty word then. People were not happy about it, and I would try and bring in influences of like Hellboy and stuff into my animation projects, and people just thought I was nuts. They didn't know what I was talking about. So really, I didn't get into comics making until properly about 2016, 2015 maybe. So it's fairly recent.
That's surprising. You would have thought animation students would have been into comics. That's something you would have thought.
Well, the students were, a lot of the tutors didn't know many comics. I mean, my other half teaches animation at the same uni at Kingston, and he's a big comics fan, and it's changed a lot now. You know, they're really into it, and they do projects on comics and making zines and stuff now, so it's so much better. But people I think they just didn't really understand them very much at that point, and yeah, it's a real shame, but it is changing, so that's great.
That is good. So what was your first comic then that you sort of released?
Mine was the 1 in 4 zines, which I did to coincide with Barking, because I realised I'd launched on my first big project, and it was going to take me years to make it. So I really ought to get an audience. And I think I heard, do you know Mark Stafford, who did Lip Hook with David Hine?
Yeah.
He was a Ladies Do Comics in London, and everyone does an intro of themselves at the start and says what they're working on. And I heard him go, God, everyone's doing graphic novels, you know, what's wrong with short form work? Like, why don't you get that done first? And I thought, oh gosh, that's quite a good idea. So I went away and made these zines and self-published them. And they've been sort of part of the project now and helped me get some people. And they were in at Dave's Comics, and I got them in at Gosh Comics and Gosh Comics recently. And then the preview section, which I sent you guys of Barking, was my next one. And so, yeah, it's really early days. Oh, I did a thing with Ram as well, Ram V, we did for Thought Bubble, but it didn't end up getting printed. It was for the festival last year. It didn't get printed, but that's online, called the Wishmaker's Gimcrack. It's a really hard title. Thanks, Ram. But it's a really great story. So, you know, check out Ram's feed. I think he's got it on there. But yeah, I'm very new. You know, I'm just being a pain and bursting on the scene of a novel, you know.
But is it right you've done something for the Black Hammer Encyclopedia as well?
Yeah.
I mean, that series I only just recently found and absolutely love it.
It's just brilliant, isn't it? It's such a good title. Well, so Jeff Lemire backed, I don't know if it's Lemire or Lemire. I always say Lemire. It's probably
Lemire.
Yeah. Well, he's like
Jeff.
The nicest guy, right? He's backed Barking. And I realised we were following each other on Twitter, and I thought, I'll just be cheeky and DM him and say, hey, thanks for doing that. And just said, I'm really enjoying Black Hammer at the moment. And he said, would you be up for a commission? So like, yes, of course. You know. So I had, they started off this sort of pin-up series at the end of Age of Doom #4, and I kicked off this new thing where they invited artists to do a pin-up at the end of each episode. And then they came back to me for the encyclopedia and said, would you like to do Madame Dragonfly again? So, yeah, it's amazing. It's just a dream commission. And they're so nice and, yeah, not at all fussy.
Well, Jeff's works.
You get on.
Yeah, Jeff's work's amazing. Everything he seems to touch
his work's
just gold.
Incredible.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, and he's constantly working. You just go, how are you doing this all? It's, incredible.
Just before we get into Barking, just something you mentioned as well about Ladies Do Comics. Now, it's not something we've really talked about, but we do want to get people down the line on who run. Just can you briefly explain what Ladies Do Comics is?
So it's a women-led forum for graphic novels and comics. It's not exclusively women, so they have it's inclusive women as well, so it's women identifying, and it's sort of like mini TED Talks. So 2 creators every month will get up and introduce their work and do a short presentation, and then there's a break in the middle and everyone chats, and it's just really supportive, really good way of getting into the community. And it certainly was for me. That's how I got to know a lot of people in the kind of London small press scene. And yeah, anyone can present. You just apply. They're all over the country. It's like London, Bristol. I think there's a Newcastle one. There's ones overseas. There's ones in the States. Yeah, they're brilliant. So you should go to one if you can. Definitely.
Yes.
Yeah, I think Manchester's the closest, but it's a bit too out of the way just for an evening, unfortunately.
It's a big trip, right? So, well, maybe you should, because they do the Ladies' Day Festival, where you can apply for a work-in-progress graphic novel and get a grant. So there's also that to look forward to next year, the Ladies' Day Prize. So, maybe you could work in a little trip to London whilst you're, you know, applying your book to see how. I'm
just like dying now in the corner. Okay. The nerves just kicking instantly. Sorry.
They are great. And all the people that apply to the Ladies' Day festivals, they all have their zines published and put on a table. So there's a whole weekend of just getting to go and read everyone's entries. And it's just wicked. It's a really great day.
Well, we will be having some of the organisers of Ladies' Comics down the line. We just need to get it
try and
arranged.
get Rachel, Wallace and Nicola all at once if you can, because the way they kind of bounce off each other is the best part of it, I think. But, it's maybe you can do a live link up or something. That'd be
we'll give it a try.
Cool.
We can give it a go, can we?
Coming soon. There we go.
Quite noisy.
Right, we'll leave that. Let's move on to what you're really talking about, barking.
Yes.
So, where did the idea come from?
So it came out of, sort of a mix of things. So I was teaching life drawing, and I had a comics creator, Nick Abadzis, in. He did the gorgeous Eisner-winning book, Laika, about the dog that went up to space. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's like my go-to recommendation if people get into comics. But he was in, and I was struggling with like doing my own work, and I was struggling with like animation's quite a tricky industry, so I was working in that industry doing kind of backgrounds, but trying to get my own projects off was quite hard. My style of drawing isn't very commercial for animation, so no one really knows what to do with me. So it's a bit too creepy, and everyone still wants to. But it is quite creepy, don't worry. I know my work's dark. I can embrace that, fine. But I was sort of struggling with my depression, and Nick had said to me, I said, I always wanted to do comics, and he said, well, Nick's quite a let's see, he doesn't mince his words. He said, well, just do a comic then, just get on and do it. And I was like, okay. And then I was talking to my other half, Stephen, and said, I don't know, my depression and blah, and he just said, why don't you, combine the two, make a story about your depression. So I sort of started working on it way back, like, God, it might be 8 or 9 years ago I started coming up with the idea. It was a really long time, but I was working full-time teaching and in animation studios, and I just couldn't focus on it. But then I had my daughter, and that kind of maternity break and being stuck with a baby sleeping and you've got nothing to do, I just thought, maybe I'll give it a go, and started working on it properly then. So that was probably 2015, 2016, I started properly trying to give it my time. So it's taken a long time. Be warned.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's are as long and like lengthy as mine, and also because I had to spend 2 years crowdfunding, and that was like a full-time job, really. So if I think I was just making it, it wouldn't have taken anywhere near as long, frankly.
How did it feel in regards to your depression and creating the work? Did it feel it helped you in any way, or was it quite hard? Or
it's a sort of a mixed bag. It sort of helps that you're having a kind of open conversation, and I think it will help more once it's out, and I can talk to people more. I have lots of people talk to me about their own experiences, and that's really fantastic. But I wanted to be quite honest about some of the research that I'd come up with. If I wasn't sectioned, but if I had been, I think I would have been in so much trouble because of all the sort of symptoms I had. I was very angry when I had this kind of breakdown after my dad died, which I should have said, actually. The story is sort of based around my experience of my dad dying quite suddenly in my 20s. And I just, about a year later, was in a really dark, self-destructive kind of place. And it's if I'd been sectioned, I don't know how I would have survived any of that, and the things that happen to people in their section. So I wanted to be really honest about it, and I have been, but it means I've really put quite a lot of myself into this book, and it's quite full on. So we'll have to we'll have to see.
So that just talking about fathers dying, that always gets me, because I was in a similar situation. No.
Yeah. It's such a hard one, and I think especially sort of if there's a traumatic, like my dad had a brain aneurysm, so it was literally like doing his emails. That was it, So it was a real shock, and he was only 54, so he was super young, and everyone was just blown apart by it completely. And it happens all the time, and people just don't talk about it, and they don't talk about how long those symptoms can go on for, and how it's really common for people to really feel the negative aspects of grief about well over a year after a death. So it's really important to keep those conversations open as well, I think.
Yeah, it just doesn't leave you even then.
Yeah.
It's there permanently.
The book was out on the 20th anniversary of my dad's death, and it still gets to me all the time. Yeah. I saw this talk the other day by this artist called Kid Fandango, and she lost most of her family in an accident on the East River in New York, just this horrific accident. And she talks about it in her work, about this thing called the grief wallop, she's called it, and it's just one of those moments that just comes out of nowhere and just knocks you back to that moment it happened. And I thought that was really profound, and I just sat there and bawled my eyes out, this bar full of people. But that's the thing with grief, it just gets you when you least expect it, I think.
So let's just look at the style. As I say, you've got what you call quite a dark,
quite creepy.
When you were thinking up the ideas, did you did you script it, or did you more let the art take you through the story? Because I know that's what you do, isn't it? You sort of let the art take you away almost.
Yeah, it's a mixture. I had to, because I knew it was going to be a kind of a 10 chapters thing. So I write the script, but it's really loose. So I sort of write it as this is loosely what I want to happen in this chapter. These are the key points, and this is the dialogue. And then I start thumbnailing, and then I let the art just then develop again. So it can keep really, really loose. But I don't do traditional comic scripts, there's 6 panels, panel 1. I don't do any of that. It's just, this is roughly what's going to happen over the chapter. Just see what happens.
Nikki's smugly looking at me.
I am smugly looking at it. It's exactly.
Yeah, I was listening. I can't remember what episode it was, and you were talking about it, and I thought that's exactly what I do. I feel completely better about it too.
I've just got to shut my mouth, haven't I, and leave you to it, basically.
But I know it's just, that it's not at all the way you're supposed to do it. So, but I think if you're working from stuff that's coming from the heart and it's quite personal, then you've just still got to allow things to just happen as you're drawing. I wouldn't want to have lost that, I think it will get too uptight as well if you do that. So stick to it, Nikki. I'm all for it.
I will.
And something you mentioned as well early on about lettering, and that's something you had to consider, which is something we didn't even think about when you started on it.
No, because I didn't do any words, did I?
So what was your initial plan then? Did you have a plan first of all?
To hand letter, and I did write it all out, and I wrote it as I was drawing it. And so I draw everything with carbon typewriter sheets for this, so it's really messy, and including the writing, right? So once I got it in and started going, I'll just, it's scanned in, I'll just start neatening it up. It took forever. It took me a week and a half to do something like 1 chapter, and I had 10 to do, and I was already getting close to my deadline, and just went, I'm just not going to make it. I can't do it. And then I was worried that I was putting that time in and it was still completely illegible. So I've got pretty spidery handwriting. I think, I'm quite close to a GP or something. I just don't write very often. I'm always drawing. So I took the plunge and went on Twitter and asked for some advice, and most people came back and said, get a font done and go to Dan Berry. So I did, and he did an amazing job. He did it really quickly and brilliantly. And it's so out of my handwriting. Even I could barely notice the difference. So amazing.
Yeah, no, I think we've found a program that allows that, but it takes the time
No,
Yeah.
it came out like someone had died writing it.
That's
when I
your
tried
writing,
Yeah.
dear.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is my writing.
I didn't have time to do that either, and he'll do all the kind of ligatures and stuff, so you don't get the same thing happening all the time. And yeah, it's really complicated. I think it's really worth doing if you've got the time, because then it's there, and you haven't had to pay for it or anything like that. But yeah, complicated, certainly.
Yeah.
So you went down as far as publishing this down the Unbound route. Was that always the idea, or did you look at different options?
I was looking originally at crowdfunding it and Kickstarter, and I'd got those, I don't know, the Iron Spike comics she does about how to crowdfund your work and things like that. And actually it was Nick again, so he was over, he lives in New York now, and he was over one summer and he said, come round to ours for a barbecue, and he said, oh, are you coming to the Self-Made Hero party? And I was like, no, I don't know anyone, I haven't got an invite, I was just at home making my comics. And he's like, oh, well, come with me. So he took me to their 10-year anniversary party, and he said, look, bring your work, because you never know who you might meet. And I was really keen on Self-Made Hero. I sort of submitted to them and Fantagraphics and heard nothing back, because it's really hard to get through. And he dragged me along to the party and introduced me to Lizzie Kay at the party. So I got actually really flummoxed, because there was all these really famous comics people in one room that I knew from online, or I knew their work. And David Hine was there, I met him the first time that night. Martin Rowson, chatting to all these people. Hannah Berry was there, and I got completely sort of, I don't know, I couldn't even go and say hi. I got completely like, oh my god, it's Hannah Berry.
What is it over Hannah Berry? You're the same.
I completely fangirl over Hannah Berry.
And she's so lovely. That's it, fangirl. And she's so lovely. I just completely spun out. And then I'd been following Unbound because of Graffiti's Wall, Ram's book, and I thought it looked absolutely stunning. And then when he introduced me to her, she was next to Andy Oliver from Broken Frontier, and I just thought, I barely cope with this. And I managed to almost talk her out of even looking at it, which is one of my worst habits, when someone offers me something and I'm like, no, don't worry about it, I'll be fine. It's just like, oh, shut up, give her the work. So luckily she didn't listen to me, and I emailed her the first couple of chapters that I had sort of ready as a PDF. But I then had a jury duty service at the Old Bailey.
Oh, no.
But, oh, my God, it was horrific. So I'd sent it to Lizzie, and she's like, yeah, let's talk after your jury service. And I'm like, okay. And I had this horrific murder trial.
Oh, God.
It was awful. I mean, I'm going to make a comic out of it, so there's one bonus. It was really awful, upsetting trial, and I'm really stressful. And I got to the end of it, and it's like, oh God, now I've got to have this phone meeting with Lizzie. And she was just brilliant, and she really got it, and was just completely all for it, but honest about how hard the crowdfunding was going to be. And I think, even though she told me the truth, I still didn't fully take on board how hard a process that was going to be, but totally worth it, because they are the deal with them is just such a good publishing deal once you get to fully funded. So they step in as a kind of traditional publisher, and you get a really good share of the profits, and they'll do all the marketing and get you into all the big bookshops and stuff. So I'm really glad I did it, but yeah, it was a really sort of stressful way to go about your first book, I think.
I must admit, I can see the challenges, because people having to pay up front, aren't they, before the work's even complete, as such, a bit different to the Kickstarter.
Totally. And you've got no, especially with like myself, I had no precedent, so I had to start creating work to go, this is what it's going to look like, and this is what I can do. And it was a real learning, what's it, flying by the seat of your pants kind of scenario. But I'm really glad I did it, because I made amazing contacts. I've met so many great people, and I've made genuine friends out of it. So it was worth it. But yeah, I mean, there are probably easier ways. Plus, Unbound have a really high print cost, so it's not like Kickstarter, where most people are probably looking for a grand or under. It's much higher. It's more like in their kind of double figures. And
blimey,
it's a lot to raise. It's a lot to raise. But hence why I was very lucky to get the Lakes supporting me and Arts Council England. I think without those, it would have taken another couple of years to get to 100%. So
how did that feel then?
Yes.
Yes, how did it feel when they told you they were going to assist
Oh,
with that funding?
just unbelievable. We'd just come up for the last year's, the really wet one.
That's what
wasn't
we'll
it?
call it, the really wet one.
Yeah, the wet one. Yeah. And it was. I mean, I
It
was wringing my dress out.
Welcome to the north.
Oh, man. I mean, my partner's from Yorkshire. He's from Harrogate. So he's used to wet weather. He's completely fine with it. And, you know, I'm not adverse. My dad's Irish. My mum's a Kiwi. They're very wet countries. But it's just another level. I mean, I was like soaked to the bone.
Yeah.
It's just, I've never seen anything like it. Yeah. But it also kind of made it, I don't know, weirdly kind of special. And I don't know, it was a really great weekend. And we came back and Lizzie said, oh, we need to have a chat. I've got some really good news for you. And she called me and I couldn't believe it. I was so thrilled, just absolutely thrilled. So, yeah, thank you. Thank you, the ladies. You're the best. I'm so excited.
So it's going to be released this October.
Yeah, launching at the festival, and I'm going to do a little talk and stuff. So, yeah, I'm really, really looking forward to it. And it's my birthday that weekend.
Oh.
Hey.
No pressure. No, I'm kidding. I'll be pretending I don't know what day it is.
I will buy cake.
Yes, yeah, don't worry.
Anyone who has a birthday.
And if
Well,
you're
it's so nice to be doing that on, like, that weekend. It's just a lovely thing to be, like, launching a book, and my mum's looking after my daughter, so my partner and I have got a weekend away.
Hey.
And, yeah.
well, if you want some tips on the bars to go to, then, you know,
Yeah.
we'll
Yes,
get this
please.
sorted
I've
there.
got to make the speakeasy this year.
Oh, I was
Yes.
going to mention
Yeah,
that,
you've
but
got
yeah.
to get to the speakeasy.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Mark Stafford was going to it, but yeah, we were 3 sheets to the wind already, so I thought, maybe next year. You know? So yeah, exciting. I'm looking forward to it.
So what's your plan then once the book's released? Are you set up
Yeah.
for publicity?
I've got loads to do. I've got so with the Arts Council, it's National Lottery, so I've got lots of engagement things I have to do. So I've got an exhibition coming up in Deptford, which is southeast London, in November. So it's a week-long exhibition, and I'll be running free zine workshops, and there'll be a launch night. So if you're in London, come down. Anyone that's listening. And what else have I got? I've got a number of talks. I'll be doing Ladies Do Comics in the January. Hopefully put by Thought Bubble. And then I've got some other projects lined up, one of which I can't even talk about, which is really exciting, and a really big American publisher. So it's just I'm just doing a small contribution again, but I'm really excited about that.
Brilliant.
And Kickstarter with Fraser Campbell from who did The Edge Off.
Yeah.
Do you know? Yeah, so we're going to be doing a Kickstarter together in September. He's running a different one, I think. What was that one called again? Heart of Steel, he's running soon. And then we'll be kicking off ours after that. So I'm going to start drawing that in September, and that looks really exciting. I can't wait to work with one of his scripts, and not my own.
Yeah. Well, that'll be the first time, is it then? You've scripted for someone else?
Well, I worked for Ram.
Of course.
Drew
Yeah.
a 4-pager for him, and his were proper comics, and it was a really good lesson because he's an artist himself, so he's quite specific about what he's looking for. Okay. And I tend to break the rules a lot, so he had to kind of keep reining me in and going, well, I don't know, it's a bit loose, and you're like, okay, well, you know. So I'm sort of testing to see whether I can be a comic artist for other people or not. I'm still not entirely sure whether it's something I want to pursue or whether I want to just keep doing my own work, but you know, to work with someone like Fraser, who's a really nice bloke to boot, it's like, well, you know, I'm happy to give it a shot and see how it goes, really.
Superb. So people can still pre-order Barking, is that right? Through Unbound, if they're interested?
To get on the supporters list and get the book months earlier, you need to get in pretty sharpish. It's in the edit stage now at unbound.com /books/barking. And that's going to be closing soon. So you then go into traditional pre-orders. Yeah. But of course, you can come to the Lakes and pick up a copy there.
And get it signed?
Yeah, I'll be signing, sketching, chatting, you know, whatever you need. I'll be there. And I'll have some prints with me and all sorts. So, yeah, it's going to be... Yeah, come along. Come and grab it. I think it's going to be like January or it's spring the following 2020 that it will go for the public release. So it'll be quite a lot sooner. if you pre-order. So worth doing.
Superb. Thank you so much, Lucy. We wish you all the best.
Thank
with
you.
the
Look forward to
release.
seeing you in October.
Yeah, we will see you, and hopefully it's not going to rain.
I don't mind. I'm coming prepared this time and bringing wellies.
Wellies, a boat.
Yeah, definitely.
Snorkel,
We're on.
flippers.
Superb. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thanks so much.
How do? Welcome to Breakdowns, the comic art section of the website. I'm Pete Taylor. I'm an indie comics creator and illustrator, and online I trade as This Man, This Pete. Apologies, I have the lurgy this episode, so this is just a short update on my Kickstarter for a fantasy comic adventure called The 7 Sagas of Silverbeard. The pitch is thus. Across 7 lifetimes, a guerrilla warrior battles demons, monsters, and the blighted land itself to overthrow the greedy deities that would turn his world into a wasteland. We're 2 weeks into the Kickstarter campaign, with 2 weeks to go. We're funded, and we have our first stretch goal under our belt. The oversized comic magazine is now 44 pages long, with an extended gallery featuring new artists, Jonathan Edwards, Demetrius Zack, and Warwick Johnson Cadwell. Jonathan Edwards is a regular guest at the Lakes International Comics Art Festival and has produced comics for Deadline and Tank Girl. He's an amazing editorial illustrator too, working for a whole stack of world-class clients. Demetrius is an illustrator based in Edinburgh. He is the indie comics creator behind Rough Time Comics, and he's been posting some dynamite commissions online at the moment. And Warwick Johnson Cadwell is another comics creator who's drawn Tank Girl, as well as Helena Crash, and a big one for me, the Samurai Jack, Quantum Jack miniseries for IDW. And these are alongside the legendary lineup we have already of Jim Mafood, Nick Brokenshire, Russell Mark Olsen, Nick Prolix, and Daisy Taylor. I'm blown away that we have such comics powerhouses drawing Silverbeard. It's a real thrill. The rest of the magazine contains 2 Titanic tales of the Simian swashbuckler, both written by me, one drawn by me and the other drawn by Mark Hughes, as well as several pages on the history of Silverbeard. The next stretch goal, of which we're not quite sure what the amount is at the moment because there's been a bit of work putting this one together, but part of the joy of looking through old comics is the ads, and we're celebrating a famous advertising partner of the fictional cat food comics with our next stretch goal. As well as the famous comic strip ads for Rollover Cola and Yum Yangs, one of my favourite ads was for Beer Truck Toys. The hand-drawn adverts would show a whole cavalcade of cat food comics characters, most that I'd never heard of, and they all looked pretty darn funky. They turned out to be a little controversial, as many readers didn't read the small print on the order form and expected some cool plastic action figures to be delivered. They were, in fact, papercraft figures that had to be cut out and constructed. If we hit our next stretch goal, then every physical backer will receive a template to make their very own Beer Truck Silverbeard and Beer Truck Obsidior toys. Digital backers will get a PDF version. Check out all the Kickstarter details at silverbeard.co.uk, and more of me at This Man This Pete on Instagram and Twitter, and at thismanthispete.com. Thanks for listening.
Oh no! There's Obsidior, and he's out to cause havoc on the wildlands. Who can stop this dastardly plan?
Stop, Obsidior! I won't let you get in the way! I, Silverbeard, will stop you!
Never! I am Obsidior, the all-powerful, and I I will get to the artifact before you.
No, Obsidio, take this powerful ape fist.
I shall use my cunning to dodge.
I was ready for that, and I shall catch you with my hairy grip foot attack.
No! This won't be the last you see of me.
Recreate the stories of Silverbeard as he battles the dashing Obsidio with the new range of beer truck toys. Also available at the Shambles, Mike Wednesday, and Captain Cat Food. Order new toys and the rest of the range in the new Silverbeard comic out now, or from your local Woolworths. Okay, let's look at a couple of events for the Lakes Festival this year. Do you want to kick it off, my dear?
I shall kick it off with, on Saturday, October 12th at 10:30, we have the banned censorship, I can't even say that word, banned censorship and comics in the 21st century. So comics and cartoons have long been in the vanguard of freedom of speech. So this is a panel discussion from 10:30 to 11:30 in the Bury Arts Centre, Screen 2. Just in case you need to know exactly where.
Exactly.
Screen 2. Down the stairs. Screen 2 is the one downstairs. It's fine. Opposite the popcorn. It'd be great. How far can this role be maintained in an era of left and right authoritarianism, where no platforming, safe spaces and fake news trump truth-seeking and critique? Darren Cullen, artist and activist. Tony Bennett, knockabout. Charles Brownstein, comic book legal defence fund. Elions, who's an artist, and Kate Charlesworth, artist, joined Tim Pilcher to explore this question. So, yes.
Now, if you don't fancy that,
why would you not fancy that?
on Saturday, October the 12th, at 10:30 as well at the same time. This is
No,
a problem.
the crash, the crash.
Self-Made Heroes Showcase and Launch. Self-Made Hero are world-renowned for a range of quality of their European titles. So to mark the beginning of the new partnership between LICAF and the Italian Cultural Institute, we focus on two books here by Italy's most respected creators, Alessandro Tota and Paolo... Why did I do this?
I'm so pleased I had the other one.
Balassiri. So you got memoirs.
Sorry, what was that?
Balassiri. Got Memoirs of a Book Thief, which we've actually got to read.
Oh, yes.
Upstairs. So that will be discussed at some point. And also Fun. So they're going to discuss those two. But also, they're going to launch the brand new title by one of their most popular creators, Rob Davies. Book of Forks, the final part in a trilogy that began with A Motherless Oven. So this is obviously big for us because we are a huge fan of Mr. Davies.
Yes.
And he will be all well and good on the next episode to talk about...
I was going to say gagged and taken home and made
via
to
Skype,
draw stuff.
Via Skype.
Fine.
So we've been a massive fan since we started reading his books.
Well, they were the first ones we really read, graphic novel-wise, for this, wasn't it?
We've read it, when we were starting sort of this podcast, we wanted to look out, and we read it in the Sci-Fi magazine, it was reviewed.
Yeah.
So we thought, right, well, let's give that a go. And
it was just like mind-blowing.
So different, yeah.
It's so good.
So that's interesting in its own right. Self-Made Hero do such a different range of stories. They really do. They stand out from the crowd in their own way. So, yeah, check that out. And the reason I want to talk about that is Rob will be on the next episode.
Yes.
Which is really exciting.
I'm so excited.
He's like, I'm just a normal guy drawing books. Why do these people care?
I'm going to have to fangirl over him.
Well, you can plan the questions.
That's like another person to fangirl over.
And briefly, just because we're on the Saturday, we'll talk about the Sunday next time. Signings during the day, you'll have Becky Cloonan, Doug Braithwaite, Michael Lark, John McCree, Junko Mizuno, and Charlie Adlard will be signing in the Clock Tower on the Saturday. And then there's different people on the Sunday. We'll discuss them next time. We need to go and say hello to Junko.
Yes.
Definitely. Right. Anything else you want to talk about? I'll tell you what I do want to talk about. Leaf is available on Comixology.
Yes, £1.49. Please go and get it.
Grab that if you decide your little...
If you just
when
want
you throw
a
your
little
iPad in front of the kid to keep him quiet.
Yeah, that would kill 10 minutes.
That's we always do that. Just, kid.
Yeah.
Quiet.
Just have a look at these lovely little pictures of my little fox.
Yes.
Please don't cry.
Just be quiet, I think, is the thing that we all want. Child, be quiet.
It is happy.
And also, I'm going to just discuss, because I'm at very early stages of this, and Nicky will probably keep looking at me thinking he's never going to do it.
No, he's never going to do it. Let me just put it now. He's never going to do it.
I'm planning to start... I want to start using video.
Oh, yes, you do want to do this. Was it Minecraft you wanted to do?
I want to do a documentary on
on
why people create comics.
Yes.
So
you can start videoing people at the Comic Art Festival.
Well, I will be doing. I'll be wanting to get interviews with people.
Yes, you have to video
creators.
them.
So I will be coming round and trying to grab some questions. I'll be just setting a few questions once I've planned out. I'm going to get I want a lot of small press because it is a focus. It's more focus on why people in the small press are creating comics when they're not making a single
penny.
Well, you make a bit of money, but you're not making stuff out of it. There's almost no future career out of it.
Wow,
there's very few. This is the case. It's the same with
any creative thing.
It's like this blooming podcast. You know, we do it.
It's the top 3% of everything.
Exactly. So there isn't, unfortunately, it's a fact. There is very little chance of you getting a career.
You have actually answered your own question though by saying about the podcast because you know why you do the podcast. Yeah, but this is easy and no, because there's a reason. No, there's a reason for doing this. We've got links. No, I want to ask for the comic creators, but I also want to then see some big name creators as well as to why they started, and they may be making money out of it now, but what got them kicking off in the first place? So obviously an easy one. Sean Phillips has already agreed to come and have a chat with me, so he will be. He will be on it. So I've got a lot to learn, but that is coming down the line. If you're interested in taking part, then speak to me. I'm happy to speak to anybody once I've got the plan set in motion. And obviously it's going to follow your story a little bit as well. No, you don't have to do that one. I will be doing. I could be a voice in the background. So thank you very much for listening. Next episode, Rob Davis. I'm fine. And if you've not backed Silverbeard, then please do silverbeard.co.uk. Yes, even if it just means that Ian stops doing the voice. Well, next episode it will have finished just about. So. Oh, that's better then. I think Silverbeard should be here every episode. I don't think Silverbeard should be here. Just a minute, he's coming. Oh, really? Oh. All right. Oh, God. Back again just to say goodbye to everyone. Goodbye, everyone. Goodbye, Silverbeard. Off on your little boat. Yeah, I'm going off on my little boat now. Is that you trying to do a fade out? What do you mean, me? He's gone. Oh, sorry, the gorilla. Right. Thank you for listening. See you next episode. Thank you for listening. Find out more about the festival at comicartfestival.com. Find out more about the show and how to contact us at comicartpodcast.uk. Find us on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. Music composed by Pop Noir.
This podcast is part of Britpod Scene, an independent network of uniquely British podcasts that's always growing. Check out BritpodScene.com or Britpod Scene on Twitter to find out more.